I spent a decade running from commitment, convinced love was a trap. Then she walked in, confident, beautiful, unapologetically herself. Her smile cracked my armor, her wisdom challenged my fears. This is how a black woman's unwavering heart finally taught this runner to stand still. I've spent my life as a shadow, always present, but never fully seen. You might recognize parts of yourself in my story, but who I am doesn't matter nearly as much as what I've learned. For years, I mastered the art of emotional escape. I'd meet someone, feel that dangerous spark of connection, then find the exit before they could discover the mess inside me. It started after my father walked out when I was 11. I remember standing in our driveway, watching his taillights disappear down the street. That moment tattooed itself onto my heart. Love means someone eventually leaves, so why stay long enough to feel the pain? By my 20s, I had a system. 3 months maximum, then a clean break. I'm not ready for something serious, I'd say, or my career needs focus right now. The excuses changed, but the pattern remained. Friends called me a commitment phobe. Therapists suggested abandonment issues. I called it self-preservation. Meanwhile, I built a life that looked successful from the outside. Good job, nice apartment, active social life, all carefully designed spaces where intimacy couldn't take root. Then, something shifted. Not overnight, but in those small moments where life offers you a choice. Continue down the familiar path or risk something new. That choice appeared in the form of her, a woman whose presence would challenge everything I thought I knew about love, commitment, and my capacity for both. If you've ever run from love, stay with me. By the end of this story, you might see your own journey differently. This isn't just about finding someone, it's about finding yourself worth staying for. Subscribe now to join a community of healing hearts who are learning, like me, that running eventually exhausts you, but staying can set you free. I grew up in a household where love was conditional. My father's departure taught me my first lesson about detachment. People leave when things get hard. My mother, broken by his absence, unintentionally reinforced this by withdrawing emotionally. "Don't need anyone too much," she'd say between cigarettes. "That's how they get power over you." I absorbed these lessons like gospel, building walls around my heart brick by brick. School became my refuge. I excelled academically, finding safety in books and achievements where emotional messiness couldn't intrude. By college, I'd perfected a carefully crafted persona, charming, friendly, but ultimately unreachable. Relationships followed a predictable script: intense connection, growing intimacy, then the suffocating panic that sent me running for the exit. The pattern was so consistent it became a joke among my friends. Another 3-month special, they'd laugh when I'd mention meeting someone new. Behind closed doors, though, the loneliness grew cavernous. I'd scroll through social media, watching friends build lives with partners, secretly wondering what was broken in me. There were attempts at therapy, 3 different counselors who all spotted the same patterns. "You're sabotaging yourself," one told me. "You're creating exactly what you fear most." I nodded, paid my bill, and never returned. Understanding the problem and solving it are different battles entirely. Work became my relationship substitute. I climbed corporate ladders, traveled internationally, built a life that looked enviable from the outside. People assumed I was living some glamorous, independent existence. Nobody saw me returning to an empty apartment, cooking dinner for one, watching movies alone on Friday nights. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd avoided the pain of abandonment by creating a life where nobody was close enough to leave. By my early 30s, exhaustion set in. The cycle, meet, connect, panic, flee, had played on repeat for so long that even I was tired of watching it. Something had to change, but the prospect terrified me. What if I opened up completely and discovered I was unlovable? What if I stayed and they left anyway? What if the vulnerability I'd avoided my whole life was exactly what I needed most? I met her on a rainy Tuesday at a coffee shop downtown. not in some dramatic, movie-worthy moment, just two people seeking shelter from a sudden downpour. The place was packed, tables scarce, and she simply asked if she could share mine. What strikes me now is how unassuming that moment was, how ordinary the circumstances that would eventually rewrite my entire life. She wore a colorful head wrap, a statement necklace that looked handmade, and carried herself with a quiet confidence that immediately caught my attention. "This seat taken?" she asked, raindrops still clinging to her coat. I gestured for her to sit, already planning my polite but distant conversation strategy. But something unexpected happened. The small talk never felt small. We spoke about the book I was reading, which led to discussions about African literature, which somehow evolved into sharing stories about our grandmothers. Her laugh was uninhibited, her opinions unfiltered. She didn't perform the careful social dance I was accustomed to. Instead, she spoke with refreshing authenticity. "You're interesting," she said directly, "but you're holding something back." The observation, delivered without judgment, caught me off guard. Most people never noticed my carefully constructed walls, or, if they did, they politely pretended not to see them. But she named what she saw without hesitation, her dark eyes holding mine with a gaze that felt like it could read every page of my story. I found myself telling her things I rarely shared on first meetings, about my writing ambitions, my recent promotion, even briefly touching on my nomadic approach to relationships. She listened differently than others, not just waiting for her turn to speak, but fully present. When the rain stopped and we finally exchanged numbers, I felt something unfamiliar. Reluctance to end our conversation, rather than relief. Walking home, I tried to dismiss the encounter. I'd met interesting people before, but something about her directness, her self-assuredness, the way she seemed completely comfortable in her own skin, it lingered. For the first time in years, I found myself thinking about someone else's perspective rather than plotting my eventual escape. After our coffee shop meeting, I found myself doing what I always did, calculating the perfect amount of time to wait before texting her. 3 days seemed right, not too eager, not too distant, but on day 2 she texted me first. "Dinner tomorrow. Life's too short for waiting games." That directness both thrilled and terrified me. She wasn't following my carefully choreographed dating routine. Our first few dates followed a similar pattern. She'd pierce through my practiced charm with questions that mattered. "What are you afraid of?" she asked over wine one evening. I deflected with a joke about spiders. She just waited, sipping her drink, until I reluctantly admitted, "Disappointing people." "Being left." The words hung in the air between us, more honest than I'd intended. I employed all my usual tactics to maintain distance. I'd cancel plans last minute, citing work emergencies. I'd sidestep conversations about the future with vague non-answers. I'd intentionally mention exes in conversation, subtle warnings about my relationship history. Yet she never pushed or pulled away. She simply observed, "You're testing me. I understand why. But I'm not going anywhere unless you give me reason to." Her cultural perspective brought something new to my understanding of relationships. "In my family," she explained one night, "love isn't just a feeling, it's a decision you make every day." My grandmother raised 8 children after my grandfather died. She always said, "You don't run when it gets hard. That's precisely when you need to stay." The contrast with my own family history couldn't have been starker. As weeks turned to months, longer than my relationships typically lasted, my internal alarms blared. I found myself inventing reasons to argue, criticizing small things, creating the distance I thought I needed. She recognized the pattern immediately. "I see what you're doing," she said calmly. "You're scared, so you're trying to break this before it breaks you. But what if neither happens? What if we just build something instead?" The questions lingered, challenging the narrative I'd constructed about myself, about love, about what was possible. For the first time, running felt like the greater risk. 6 months into our relationship, I found myself on the precipice of my usual departure point. The familiar restlessness crept in, whispering that it was time to run before I got hurt. We were sitting on her balcony one evening, the sunset painting everything gold, when I started laying groundwork for my exit. "I'm not sure I'm built for the long haul," I said casually, as if commenting on the weather. "My track record speaks for itself." She set down her glass and turned to fully face me. "Can I share something with you?" she asked, her voice gentle but unwavering. "My mother used to tell me about our ancestors who survived the Middle Passage. They were torn from everything familiar, forced across an ocean, and still found ways to love, to create family, to build community. If they could choose love in those circumstances, what's your excuse?" The question hit me with unexpected force. I'd spent years crafting sophisticated justifications for my emotional unavailability, but they suddenly seemed hollow against the backdrop of her family's resilience. "That's different," I protested weakly. "Is it?" she challenged. "Or are you just choosing fear because it's comfortable? My people have been teaching the world about love through centuries of hardship. Real love isn't about perfect circumstances. It's about choosing each other even when it's difficult." Something cracked open inside me that night. I saw my pattern with painful clarity, not as self-protection, but as self-sabotage. I wasn't avoiding pain, I was ensuring it by creating exactly what I feared most: connections that inevitably ended. The real risk wasn't in staying, it was in never giving myself the chance to experience what might happen if I did. "I'm terrified," I admitted, my voice barely audible. "I don't know how to do this." She took my hand, her palm warm against mine. "Neither do I," she said with a small smile. "Nobody does at first. We figure it out together, day by day. That's the whole point." For the first time, I didn't plan my escape. Instead, I leaned into the fear, letting it wash over me without drowning in it. It was the moment I chose to stay. Choosing to stay was only the beginning. Years of running had left me with deep-rooted habits that didn't disappear overnight. I still felt the urge to flee when arguments arose or when vulnerability felt overwhelming. The difference was that now, I named those feelings instead of acting on them. "I'm scared right now," I'd admit, and she'd respond, "Thank you for telling me. Let's work through it together." Her cultural heritage offered wisdom I hadn't encountered before. She introduced me to the concept of Ubuntu, I am because we are, a philosophy that challenged my individualistic worldview. "In my culture," she explained, "we understand that our humanity is intertwined. Your healing is my healing, your joy is my joy." This perspective slowly reshaped my understanding of relationships, from potential traps to sources of shared strength. Family gatherings with her relatives initially terrified me. I was used to keeping people at arm's length, but her aunties welcomed me with bone-crushing hugs and probing questions that left no room for my usual emotional hiding places. "How are you caring for her heart?" they'd ask directly. These women had weathered racism, sexism, and countless hardships while maintaining an unwavering capacity for love that humbled me. I began to understand that my fear of commitment wasn't just about my father leaving. It was about never having witnessed healthy attachment in action. Her family provided a living example of what was possible when people chose each other repeatedly through difficulty. The Sunday dinners, the heated debates over politics, the collective childcare, the celebration of achievements both big and small, all of it demonstrated a resilience I'd never known. The most profound transformation came in learning to trust not just her, but myself. I discovered that I was capable of staying, of working through conflict, of loving someone without losing myself in the process. Slowly, steadily, I built new neural pathways where commitment represented possibility rather than threat. When I found myself thinking about our future, it no longer triggered panic, but a quiet, steady warmth. "You're not running anymore," she observed one morning, sunlight streaming across our shared bed. "No," I answered, surprising myself with the certainty I felt. I found something worth staying for. Today, 3 years into our relationship, I look at the life we've built together with a sense of wonder. The man who once counted down the days until he could make his exit now finds himself counting the moments we share. We've weathered storms together, career changes, family conflicts, health scares, and each challenge has only strengthened our foundation rather than threatening it. I won't pretend it's always easy. There are still moments when old fears resurface, when the urge to protect myself by distancing returns. But now I recognize these feelings as echoes from the past, rather than warnings about the present. I've learned that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the courage to be seen fully and to see another person just as completely. Her love has taught me what no self-help book or therapy session ever could. That staying doesn't mean stagnation. It means growing together, challenging each other, building something deeper than I ever experienced in my years of running. The Black women in her family, with their generational wisdom, their unflinching honesty, their capacity to love deeply despite historical wounds, have shown me a strength I'm still learning to embody. This journey from runner to partner is still unfolding every day. If my story resonated with you, hit subscribe and share your own experience in the comments. Love finds us when we're brave enough to stop running. Join our community of healing hearts as we learn to stay present in love. Click the link below for resources on overcoming relationship fears. This journey from runner to partner is still unfolding every day. If my story resonated with you, hit subscribe and share your own experience in the comments. Love finds us when we're brave enough to stop running. Join our community of healing hearts as we learn to stay present in love. Click the link below for resources on overcoming relationship fears.